Court is today hearing a public interest lawsuit opposing the barrier of former President Edgar Lungu in that country. Yesterday, Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha filed the suit in the Gauteng Division of the High Court of South Africa in Pretoria. The suit is directed against members of the late president's family and two other individuals seeking an interim court order to prevent the barrier of the former president. Mr. Kabesha has requested that no barrier takes place until all disputes regarding Dr. Lungu's final resting place are resolved, specifically whether he should be interred in Zambia with full military honors, customs and traditions as mandated by Zambian laws and in keeping with public interest. Now joining me in the studio is on this special program is Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha, State Counsel. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sinyangwe. I appreciate that you invited me to come to this program and just let the nation know what is going on.
Okay. Now, Mr. Attorney General, what has prompted your decision to file a challenge over the repatriation of the former president's remains?
Well, the Attorney General, by law, by the Constitution, is the custodian of public interest. So in this matter, I think the executive, they have tried to negotiate with the Lungu family that the body be repatriated to Zambia and be buried here. They have been having talks, and we saw at one time there was almost an agreement, but at the last stage there was some asserting that the family of the Lungu family decided that the burial should take place in South Africa. And there are mixed positions. Some members of the public think that is not okay, that's not ideal, culturally and morally, for the Zambian president, former president, to be buried outside the country. For the government also, it has obligations to bury the former president in this country by law. And so after negotiations failed, it was also my decision as my office mandates to try and approach the courts to help us to come up to terms. Now, the application I've made in the court, in the High Court in Pretoria, it has two limbs. The first one, because the burial should have been today, President Lungu was to be buried in South Africa today at 10 hours. And so yesterday I filed an application. We call it ex parte application for a stay to suspend, not to stop, to suspend the burial of President Lungu today until there will be a second phase. The second phase is for me to apply to court that the remains of our President Lungu be repatriated to Zambia. And so the first stage of staying, suspending the application, was held today at 8 hours. And so the court has allowed that we don't bury today. Okay. The court at least has allowed that we don't bury today because we made what we call prima facie case, that yes, there is need for the parties to continue discussing and for the parties to reflect whether this is the best arrangement we want. And so the court has allowed that we wait until I make the application to court, and I've been asked to file on or before 3rd July for the repatriation of the remains of former President Lungu to come to Zambia, and the other party, the Lungu family, will be filing their response to what I will be asking by 4th July. And after we have done that, the court can hear us for that application on 18th July. And, but that gives us time to continue negotiations, to continue talking to each other. The parties who have been discussing, maybe they will change the negotiators, and maybe the Lungu family also will change the negotiators, so that we bring the body, or we bring the remains of the former president to Zambia. That is our hope. That speaking for myself as Attorney General, there is no need for us to wait until those dates which have been given. It's not a win-win situation. It's give and take. The government feels that President Lungu deserves to be buried in the country where he was president for 7 years. Morally, culturally, and spiritually, he must be buried in this country. To bury him in, whether you want to exhume him later, it's not fair, because he's not a refugee. He went because he had an illness, and we need to honor him by bringing the body. So that is what prompted me to bring an action in the South African court, so that the court can help us.
Now, can you clarify the legal basis on which the state is seeking to compel the family to bring back the body? Is there a specific statute or constitutional provision that is being invoked?
It's not to compel. That's why we went to court, and that's why we have been negotiating. The government has the law. Yes, there is the former President's Benefits Act, which is Chapter 15 of the laws of Zambia, which gives what a former president is entitled to. And in the schedule of that act, funeral expenses are supposed to be funded by the government. That is the law. That's the law we are relying upon.
Now, why is this matter of such national importance, that it requires legal intervention from the state?
Yeah, of course. For me, my observation is that I think politics have come in. I think it shouldn't have been. President Lungu didn't belong just to political groups. When he became president, he became a national asset. And whether people didn't vote for him, those who didn't vote for him, he was still their president. And so that's why I thought having the intervention of the court to guide us would be a better arrangement. And I think so far what has happened, I think lawyers are getting to know that the best is what we are asking the parties to do.
It's quite interesting. Does this legal challenge then set a precedent, for how Zambia handles the burial of former heads of state?
The precedent is there. It's not that this case, for the Zambian side, South Africa maybe is different. For the Zambian side, the precedent is already there. What I need to explain also is that the law in Zambia is that it's either by an act of parliament, a piece of legislation, or by precedent of the court. When a court makes a decision, that becomes a precedent, and we have to follow what the court has guided in that precedent, or what the court has ordered. Now we have a precedent in this country, the Kaweche case, when former President Kaunda died. If Zambians have good memory, those who were paying attention to the burial of President Kaunda, they will remember that there was a case in court by Kaweche Kaunda, the son, that they wanted him to be buried at the house where the mother Tukaweche or Betty was buried. The matter went to court, and the High Court there ruled that a former president is not a private arrangement. It's not a private property. It's a national property, and it must be, his burial should be handled by the state. The moment there is a national mourning declared, then the law kicks in. The presidential burial takes place, and the government, the military honors, and all the protocols involved, they kick in. There's a law already. That case it's a law.
Mm-hmm. Now, critics may argue, and this is an argument that is going out, that the family has a right to mourn and bury their loved one as they see fit. How does the government balance state interest with the family's right to privacy and cultural considerations?
Yeah, I think the government in those negotiations, by where the government, there was the secretary to the cabinet and former Vice President Kavindele, they tried to balance up, and the government was saying, let's continue discussing. It's trying to balance that the family, yes, they have an interest, but the law set in that case which I've cited says the family or private interests cannot override public interest. Mm-hmm. And in that case, the judge emphasized that once a national mourning has been declared, and because of the death of the former president, it's the public interest that takes the position. It's the public interest that overrides the private interest. That's the law. Mm-hmm. And that's what we are riding on.
Okay. Now, looking at this suit that you've brought in, I mean, this is law for Zambia, but then this is in South Africa now. Do we have any cases within Africa or within Southern Africa that you are using as, where we're getting lessons from, or that you can use as examples, to help with this case?
Well, I don't know any other case but I know for sure that many African heads of state, former presidents, some of them who were even who were refugees somewhere or who had sought asylum, but when they died, their remains were taken to their countries of origin. And even here in town, even if we want to be normal Zambians, there are those who die in town, but we repatriate them to their village. If they are working, the employers will ask where the family wants that person to be buried. Yes, they do that, but not when you become president. Maybe this will help us also. For those politicians who want to be presidents, when you become a president, you stop being a private person. Don't even talk about, I have a right to privacy. You are an asset for the nation. Where you go, the state should know where you are going, because they are protecting. When you have been president, when you have been attorney general, there are things I know which you don't know, Sinyangwe. And those things belong to the state. That information belongs to the state. I cannot be allowed to have a free movement. The state should know where I'm going to protect what I carry. That is the position. And so, specifically, we don't have a particular law that says this is what should happen, apart from that case which made a decision in the Kaunda matter. Mm-hmm. But surely, maybe in future, we should have a law.
Okay. Now, if the court rules in favor of the state, what practical steps would follow in ensuring the body is brought back? And if it rules otherwise, what would be the state's position?
Let's start with, if the court rules otherwise, when I make the application to repatriate the remains of former President Edgar Chagwa, if the court rules otherwise, as the state is concerned, would have done our part. We have gone to the last. This is our last bus stop. We can't go further. We are just trying to help the situation. That President Lungu doesn't just belong to the immediate family members. He belongs to the whole nation. There are people who are from Chawama, they want to attend the burial. There are people from Kazungula, they want to attend the burial. The Zambians just need, they want to attend the burial. And if the court agrees with our application to repatriate the remains of the president, former President Lungu, the cabinet office will run the protocols as what will be done.
Okay. Now, you know, should this happen, is the state willing to proceed with, you know, maybe appointing a neutral body like the church to mediate between
the church? Have been involved. The church have been involved. Even other stakeholders, those who thought they were close to the Lungu family, they have been involved. They have been negotiating. And speaking for myself, this period which we have been given, even before that, I believe in parties agreeing and having consent. But now, apart from looking at what happened in the past, that parties agreed, and there was some sentiments that the government side had breached, according to the Lungu family, that the government side had breached. But if we go to court, before even 3rd July, if the parties are able to agree, I will sign. It will be a consent judgment, which we are going to file in court, and no party will be allowed to somersault on that court order, because it will become a court order. Okay. And I think that's the best arrangement. And I hope the Zambians are seeing that maybe this will bring finality to what we have been struggling with.
Okay. And finally, as we wrap up the interview, what assurances can you give the Zambian people that this process will remain respectful, it will remain lawful, and in the best interest of national unity?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I want to assure the Zambian public that this process we have gone into, it's a good one, because it will bring parties together. And let us continue, remain united. Let us learn also, if we call ourselves Christians, it shouldn't be by mouth, it should be by what we do. Let us learn to love one another. Let us learn to forgive one another. That is what Jesus Christ guided us to do. So the nation, be assured, the government means well through the Attorney General. I mean well, that let's bring this issue to the conclusion, so that we bury our former president in a decent way. Being buried in another country, I can't assure that to be a decent way. We must bury our president in the country of his origin, and that is Zambia. That's the best arrangement Zambia can have.
And finally, as well, you know, I think the biggest argument has also been that when he left the country, he had been stripped of his benefits. He was basically not what you would recognize as former head of state. He was a normal citizen. So how are you balancing that narrative with bringing him back now as a statesman?
Thank you. Please, Zambians, no one stripped, no individual person or office stripped President Lungu of his benefits. The same act I've cited, former President's Act, Chapter 15, talks of any person. That is the law. The law, it was not made by this current government. The law says any person who has been president, and if that person joins or goes back to politics, he loses those benefits. No one. Have you forgotten that on 28th October, President Lungu went to the memorial of President Sata on 28th October and announced that he had come back to politics. So no one is stripped. It's the law. The law kicks in. It's the law that stripped him of that, because it was his constitutional right to go back to politics. And if you go back to politics, the law says then the benefits for former president, stop. That's a law. No one really stripped him. It's the law.
Okay. So in the interest of time and ensuring that this process is done as quickly as possible, when are we expecting you to file in South Africa? Because you've been given up to the 3rd or the 4th of July?
To the 3rd of July. Yes. I intend to file before 30th. But in the meantime, we'll continue talking to the family. I'm not the one negotiating. Maybe I'll pass it on to Secretary to the Cabinet to find a team to talk. My desire is that even before 30th, maybe even tomorrow, if people can please say, it's too much. We can't keep our former president in a foreign mortuary. Let's see what we can do. What's the best? Speaking for myself, the best for this nation is by tomorrow the parties agree, or even we, myself and the family, we sit and agree what should happen. Bring the body here, let's bury. If they insist that he has to be buried in South Africa, they must give the reasons. They have been giving reasons, but some of those reasons are political. And also to imagine that I've heard statements like, no, he was stripped, as you have said. No one stripped him. Himself did. Himself did strip himself of those benefits because he declared, I've come back to politics. And the law kicks in. So maybe this information has not been given to the family. Maybe even in them they think so. But look, the Secretary to the Cabinet wrote a letter to the former president to say, oh, now you have come back in politics, declared by yourself on 28th. So the benefits, they fall off. And we are in court, in case Zambians don't know. We are in court. Somebody, the former president, went to court, in the High Court, challenging that law about former presidents losing their benefits because they have gone to politics. It offends the Constitution on the rights. Rights to do whatever you want, rights of association, rights of whatever you want to do. We are in court. The matter is in court. I was sued. Okay. So, but the law is still there. The law has not been declared by the court that it's unconstitutional. Okay. So we are just following the laws.
All right.
We are government of laws. All right. That's all. Which laws we didn't enact, enacted by previous governments.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming through for this interview today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinyangwe. The nation, we are still mourning. The mourning can only end when we have put to rest the remains of our former president. And we continue saying condolences to the Lungu family and to the whole nation.
All right. This has been a special interview on ZNBC television. And of course, we were featuring the Attorney General, Mulilo Kabesha, State Counsel. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Leslie Sinyangwe. Have a good day.
Get ready for a ride of your life with TV2, the channel that's rewriting the rules of television. From the heart-stopping dramas that will leave you on the edge of your seat to laugh-out-loud comedies that will leave your sides splitting. Let's go. TV2 is the gold standard of entertainment. And for sports fanatics, rejoice! TV2 brings you front row seats to the action-packed showdowns and nail-biting competitions that will leave you shouting for more.
Now, check this out.
But that's not all. Prepare to be enlightened with TV2's riveting documentaries, informative and educative programs where every story is a journey and every moment is an adventure. Join the revolution and experience the future of television with TV2, because when it comes to entertainment, we just don't raise the bar. We are the bar. TV2, the pulse of television.